Had a good 2 days TiECON and it's coming to the finale. I think the session which we had, VK, when we started with Mr. Shibulal, the chairman of the High Power IT Committee, he talked about dreaming about Kerala. And I think you gave a good close in terms of the last panel. So, and wrongly Ajit Moopan, gave me a bouquet of flowers, though I was the organizer for the welcome address. So I told that normally when you have a wedding in the family, the bride's father doesn't get invited or welcomed. But now we have come to the last function where the marriage is almost getting over. I'm very happy that we had 835 registrations for this TiECON. So I think big round of applause to the people who have participated. And today we can see, I think the crowd has thinned out quite a bit, and we have still about 150 people sitting around. So welcome to all of you. We always say that data is the oil of the future, and we have none other than Mrs. Aruna Sundararajan, who is heading the Telecom sector, and I had heard her speaking about the criticality of data and the 5G, and we look forward to hearing from you, ma'am, in terms of what changes are going on as the head of Telecom for the country. I won't take much of the time because we would like to listen to Aruna on this. One quick point that Mr. John Sandosh of Billion Lives, there was comment from the earlier panel that there has been a little bit of slowdown, which I agree, but I don't fully agree. There have been a lot of activities going on with the government of Kerala, because we had invited the two World Bank leads to be part of this panel. They had, I think, 2 days of discussions with various secretaries in Kerala government in terms of what I think PH Kurian referred to that, about this $1 billion funding, which is on the pipeline. It's close to 7,200 crores. A lot of work has gone in. Special purpose vehicle has been created for rebuilding Kerala under the leadership of none other than Dr. Venu. So a lot of activities are happening. So I am not as pessimistic as the earlier panel, but more needs to be done for sure. There's no doubt about it. So in this context, can we just quickly look at a 2-minute video which has been created for the Rebuild Kerala Special Purpose Vehicle. Can you quickly put on the video, please?
പ്രളയം നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിലെ നടുക്കുന്ന ഓർമ്മയായി. തങ്ങളുടെ അരുമകളെ തോളിലേറ്റി നിലയില്ലാത്ത പ്രളയജലത്തിൽ അലഞ്ഞു തിരിഞ്ഞ ജനത. ആർത്തലച്ചു വന്ന പ്രളയം കവർന്നെടുത്തത് മനുഷ്യജീവനുകൾ മാത്രമല്ല, വീടിന്റെ ഉപജീവനമായിരുന്ന അരുമയായ വളർത്തുമൃഗങ്ങളെ കൂടിയാണ്. വീടുകളുടെ അരുകുപറ്റി ജീവിച്ച മിണ്ടാപ്രാണികൾക്ക് ജീവനും കൊണ്ടോടാൻ ഒരിടവുമില്ലായിരുന്നു. പ്രളയം അവരെ കൊന്നൊടുക്കി, ഒഴുക്കി മാറ്റി. 11.43 ലക്ഷം കോഴികൾ, 4.64 ലക്ഷം താറാവുകൾ, 3502 പശുക്കൾ, 650 പശുക്കുട്ടികൾ, 2994 ആടുകൾ എന്നിവ ഉൾപ്പെടെ 7146 കന്നുകാലികൾക്ക് ജീവൻ നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. 1-2 പശുക്കൾ സ്വന്തമായുള്ള ക്ഷീര കർഷകരുടെ സ്വപ്നങ്ങളെയാണ് പ്രളയം തകർത്തെറിഞ്ഞത്. അകിടുവീക്കം വന്നതും കുളമ്പ് രോഗം ബാധിച്ചതും അംഗഭംഗം സംഭവിച്ചതുമായ പശുക്കളുടെ അവസ്ഥ അതിദയനീയം. സർവ്വതും നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട കർഷകർക്ക് ഇവർ ഒരു ബാധ്യതയായിരിക്കുന്നു. ഈ അവസ്ഥയെ അതിജീവിക്കാൻ, ഇവരെ ജീവിതത്തിലേക്ക് തിരികെ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ നമുക്ക് ഓരോരുത്തർക്കും പങ്കാളികളാകാം.
I would now request John Sandosh to say a few words about this video. I think this is more intended for the crowdfunding initiative. Just 2 minutes, John, please.
Rebuild.kerala.gov.in, that's the Kerala government's official crowdsourcing portal. This has got a few aspects to it. Anyone can come online and look at the entire damage the state has gone through. It is classified into 4 areas: the houses that has been completely destroyed, the people that lost the livelihood through their livestock, the schools that got damaged, and the Anganwadis that got damaged. Interesting part is, anyone can come online, make any contribution that feel it's right, And at the same time, they can go and monitor how government is using that money for the purposes intended for. That's the difference. So it is not to say you contribute, but you will also get to see how the money has been put to use for the purposes you gave it for. Last week, we had an interesting scenario. We saw a 75,000 rupees coming in for a particular school in Wycombe from a doctor in London. When I got into a bit more detail of that, I realized this is the doctor who had her first schooling in that school in Wycombe. So there are a lot of people out there who are looking for ways of coming back and touching lives of people back in Kerala. If you can spend 2 or 3 minutes of your valued time today, go into this portal, look at that district or the village or the panchayat that you connect to. Look at what has happened to that village with all details, photos, every detail that you can think of, and make a small contribution. That'll make somebody smile tonight. Thank you.
So, as I was mentioning, it's a great effort. The efforts are continuing from Government of Kerala. In fact, Elias George mentioned that we should mention it as recreating Kerala, not rebuild Kerala. If I had taken the Vice Council of Elias earlier, we would have definitely even renamed the theme as Recreate Kerala because it makes a words. We are not playing with semantics. Definitely there is more meaning to that. Well, I would say that it has been a very interesting TiECON with some 70 speakers, some 6 tracks, and we have got a lot of inputs. And KPMG and TiE put together will be making a, and especially KPMG has been very helpful in this because we are not very good in, making documents. I mean, because especially Rajesh Nair has, relinquished his charge in terms of going through the thing. But I think we have one KPMG person here, in terms of summarizing. So once again, I welcome Mrs. Aruna Sundararajan here. It's good that you could come, madam, because when I told her, she told if it's Kerala, every other day I would like to come here. Yesterday she was supposed to come for the inauguration, but had a meeting with the finance minister, which she tried to sort of get an exemption, but she could not do it. But we're very happy and very pleased to have you, ma'am, here. And I am sure we're looking at data as the future oil of the world. Would like to hear from you. Over to you, Aruna.
Thank you. At the outset, I see a lot of people and faces that I know. And while I do recognize that the Hartal has affected attendance, maybe it's not such a bad thing after all, because at least it gives us an opportunity to have a slightly more reflective sort of conversation. And I noted that in Mr. V.K. Matthews' session, which he was moderating, certainly there was a lot of, the tone of the discussion was something which was fairly reflective. So I will try to continue in that vein. I must confess that when I thought about what I should say, I had 2 choices. One, to focus largely on the theme that you have suggested, which is Rebuild Kerala, or to speak about, the larger everyday context in which I work, which is really about, data and communications and how communications itself is a game-changing influence in our lives. And so finally, I thought I'd strike a happy compromise and speak for a little while about the topic, and then a little bit share with you about what is happening in the national and international context in terms of emerging technologies, because that is also part of your theme, and then come back to Rebuild Kerala. So first of all, looking at the theme, I do agree that, as Mr. Kurian mentioned here, rebuild, somehow gives the impression that the focus is on physical construction or reconstruction of the state. And I think almost every one of the speakers in the earlier session, and perhaps many others, did recognize that this is not so much about a physical reconstruction merely. Physical reconstruction is no doubt a part of it. But to utilize this opportunity to step back a little and ask a larger question, you know, recreate Kerala, reimagine Kerala, reinvent Kerala, rethink Kerala. And I think that is the prime focus, because at the end of the day, you know, it is our mindsets that we are locked into. And unless we change those mindsets, any amount of physical construction can only take us so far in terms of rebuilding the new Kerala. Coming to the word Kerala itself, you know, what is it that we want to rebuild about Kerala? What are the unique features of Kerala that, as passionate Keralites, we want to see, you know, regenerated or rejuvenated? And I think there are many things that make this state fairly unique and singular by any yardstick. Maybe we are not doing as badly as we often think we are. And I know that when I was, you know, living here in the state, one would get so caught up in the hurly-burly of every day that, you know, you tend to have a slightly darker hued prism than you would have if you had a little more distance. But now that I'm fortunate enough to have that little more distance, I was, you know, looking at what is this essential feature of Kerala that we want to recreate. And in this context, I was reminded of what Geeta Gopinath, who hails from the state, an eminent economist and who very recently was elevated to become the chief economist of the IMF. And she was addressing a conference in Kerala. And she posed this question, which I will again, you know, recapitulate. She said, if one were an unborn child, where in India would you like to be born? You don't know whether you're going to be rich or poor. You don't know whether you're going to be a boy or a girl. You don't know which community you're going to be in. If that is the case, where in India would you like to be born? And this question is significant because if you're a rich person, really it doesn't matter. You could be born in any state in India or any state in the world, and life would be pretty much the same for you, especially given that modern technology is available to everybody. But if you're a poor person, or if you're a person who is from a disadvantaged community, then this question becomes paramount. If you could choose, and she said, I believe that for many reasons, there's a strong case to believe that people would choose Kerala. And she gave a very objective set of reasons why this would be so. And she said, first of all, the chances that you would survive as an infant are probably 5 times as much in Kerala than in any other state. Second, if you're a girl child, because you don't know whether you're a boy or a girl, there's a good chance that you will get the same kind of facilities and same kind of attention as if you were as a boy child. Thirdly, in terms of health indicators, this is probably the best state. And you know, second last, if you wanted an education here, you would at least be assured that you will be able to complete a decent school education. And lastly, life expectancy. Your life expectancy is significantly higher than in other states. So certainly, there is something about the Kerala paradigm of development which we have managed to get right. And I think that while I am not suggesting for a minute that, you know, we should not be aspirational. Of course, we should be aspirational. Why should our citizens not have the best, the highest life expectancy in the world or the best education in the world? So certainly we have ground to cover, but overall, it hasn't been a trivial achievement. And secondly, it's often said that if you want to test a man's character, you know, test it during times of adversity. And it is said that adversity for some men means, you know, breaks, or adversity would break many men. But for some, adversity would break records. They would go on to look at it as a challenge and actually break new records. And if you look at the kind of test or adversity that Kerala had during the floods, I can only repeat what every other person has said before me, in the media, online, offline. It was a truly magnificent effort where the social compact sprang up like the many rivulets and the streams and the waterfalls that, like every drop of water became a kind of rivulet. I think hundreds of thousands of helplines, lifelines, support lines sprang up so spontaneously. And in fact, one very eminent journalist wrote about it. And he said, no model of development, no artificially fashioned set of social, of artificially fashioned social compact can manufacture this kind of immediate, spontaneous response. And he said that that is the greatest strength of Kerala. And I think these two are very important because when we talk about recreating Kerala or rethinking Kerala, I don't think we need to get caught up in terms of saying, how will I build this house here? How will I build that road there? How will I ensure that this livelihood is restored? I think we will have to look at a broader set, a broader vision, a broader set of principles, and approach. And most important of all, where do we want to be? And I think this is an existential question. In India, most states do not have the luxury of asking themselves existential questions because they are so busy eking out an existence that they cannot really afford to sit back and ask this question. But I think Kerala is one of the few places where generally we are slightly better off, and therefore here we can ask ourselves this existential question, and we do. I think we ask ourselves this question day in and day out. But the mistake I think we often make is that we want to be like the California of the US, or we want to be the Singapores of the world, or we want to be something like Shanghai. Whereas Kerala is so different. We really have to recognize that this state is not, it has never been a top-down driven state. It is completely a bottom-up state. It is a state in which 1 million flowers have bloomed and have made the state what it is. This is not a state where one centralized leadership came and said, this is what you have to build. This is too creative, too diverse, too vibrant. And because we are used to a lot of freedom, and because we are used to being a state where we have had a lot of new movements, innovations, revolutions coming up, we are a state which, and a people who question. And that is the greatest strength. Now, in the last 10 to 15 years, or maybe longer, I think often we find that, we are trying to emulate models that just do not fit us. We have to now think from the bottom up, what is the model we want? It's not to say that these models don't exist, but if these models exist, they're certainly not the USA, or not a Singapore, or not a China. I think we will have to look at much smaller states like the Nordic countries, where the social compact is high, where individual freedoms are respected despite social compact being there, and where I think there is a much greater awareness of the environment and therefore much stricter controls on the environment. And they have focused on knowledge industries. They have focused on new technologies. but those technologies have been woven into their lives in such a way that, for example, if you go to Switzerland, or if you go to Sweden or Denmark or Finland, you will find that their pristine pastures or their pristine forests, their pristine woodlands, and there are people who still carry on those old professions with the new technologies. So I think Kerala will have to really do some hard thinking and get away from a lot of the new influences that have crept in, which seem to suggest that what we want is a lot of high-rise buildings. We want a Manhattan to be recreated in Kerala. I think that is certainly not the model. But the good thing is that this state has always been highly creative, and we have enough models in every sector, whether it is in ecotourism, or whether it is in the kind of healthcare that has grown through the ages. I'm talking not about the healthcare that has sprung up only now, but the traditions that we have had, or whether it is in our art, our culture. So I think that is where we have to look back and look at some of those fundamental principles which will give us some guidance on how we can have a holistic, a sustainable, and eco-friendly, and a socially satisfying kind of Kerala. And also, I think in Kerala, we have to look at the social return on investment and the social rate of return on projects. I also want to flag here that for the first time in many, many years, even the US is now is having a hard relook at the Silicon Valley kind of model, where you have huge, gigantic tech platforms that are coming in and taking over people's lives. A lot of thinkers in Silicon Valley, including the founder of the internet, they are now thinking in terms of breaking up the internet and bringing in things like blockchain to have smaller, decentralized pools of data where the individual can own his data. So there is a lot of fundamental rethinking going on elsewhere in the world. It is not that the Silicon Valley kind of model is the only model of innovation. There are several other, probably healthier, more holistic models of innovation. And we have to look at our people here. The other thing that I want to say in the context of rebuild is, again, one of the, I think the mind being a prisoner of certain cliches. When we say rebuilding, you immediately think of a gigantic architecture, a huge superstructure that is just imposed on the state. But actually, recreating or rebuilding, you will have to start with very small steps. And that is how you rebuild. And that is the most sustainable way of rebuilding. I don't think any other way is really going to give us what we are looking for. And what we are looking for, I would imagine, or what we should be looking for, I imagine, is keeping Kerala's environment the way it is, because it's an extraordinarily beautiful and singular environment. The kind of social compact we have here, again, is something extraordinary, and we need to keep that up. So certainly, as is often said, there is enough if we're looking at people's need, but there is not enough if we look at people's greed. So Kerala, when we start this exercise of rethinking or recreating Kerala, I think we need to start from those first principles. And why this is important is, I remember somebody mentioned about the Hartal today and how, despite all our best intentions, we fall back into these old ways. And I think that one of the reasons is a lot of educated people have ceded thought leadership. We have got into our own enclaves, and we are not willing to engage with the larger public to bring a quality of thought leadership which alone can change many of these things. And therefore, I think I'm, first of all, happy that TiECON has organized this conference, but I think a much larger engagement and debate is required. I just want to, I said I would speak or spend a little bit of time on how things are changing. And I think this is important because this is, in a sense, the larger context of what is happening. And in terms of the larger context, Thomas Friedman said, over the last 2 years, he has been speaking extensively on 3 big changes that are happening in the world, what he calls giant accelerations, which are really going to change the shape and nature of the world as we know it. And the first one, he says, is the way in which markets are changing and how they are all coalescing into one giant global market. Second, he speaks about technology, digital technologies, really sort of changing everything about life as we know it. And thirdly, he also speaks about the fact that there are changes which are happening in terms of the climate change. So all these 3 elements are absolutely relevant in the context of what we are discussing, because any model of development that we have going forward will have to factor in climate change. It will have to factor in the new emerging technologies. And we know that Kerala, over the last 10 to 15 years, we have a lot of IT icons sitting right here, has been trying to see how the state can be positioned as a knowledge state. I was just visiting the expo downstairs, and I can tell you that things have really changed. Just like IT has come and made and changed so many things about India, I think the advent of IT into Kerala and digital technologies into Kerala again has brought about so many changes. And the biggest sign of that change is that, for the first time, there is a thought leadership shift from the old politician-led, the labor union kind of thinking to entrepreneurs. And for the first time, I think in the last, that has certainly gained a lot of traction and momentum. And I think that can do nothing but augur well for this state, because the kind of new ideas that are coming, the desire not to tread old paths, but to tread new paths, to think out of the box. And the other interesting thing was that almost all the innovations that I saw today had some kind of social context. So that again is something that is very, very, that augurs really well and is very positive. So I would end with, so again on the emerging technologies, India itself is changing so rapidly, and I just want to give you a flavor of 2 or 3 things. Till 2 years back, India was 155th in terms of mobile data consumption. Today, India is number 1 in the world in terms of mobile data consumption. It is actually overtaken US and China put together. Again, in terms of cost, data costs in India are almost 1/6 to 1/10 the costs anywhere else. We have had about 250 million people who have embraced mobile banking for the first time in the last 2 years. And on the UPI platform, we used to have around 3,000 people using it per month. Now we have about 30 million people using the UPI platform. So we are already gearing up for 5G. And I can tell you that there was a lot of skepticism about whether India will ever get onto 5G. We just had the India Mobile Congress last month. And I can tell you that the kind of work that is going on in the 5G space, almost every single member of the stakeholder is gearing up for 5G. But the point is that we will not be able to harness the full benefits of 5G unless industry and all the other stakeholders, the user segments of the industry really gear up for 5G. Again, on artificial intelligence, you know that under Niti Ayog's stewardship, India has just unveiled a new roadmap for AI. Similarly, on big data, India has already started integrating big data into a lot of the decisions of the government. So it is expected that in the next few years, India is already the largest user of many social media platforms, including Facebook. And it is expected that in the coming years, India will not just, emulate China, but in many ways, we may actually be greater users of the digital tools and utilities than even China, because our population is much younger. So emerging technologies have huge relevance for India, also because this country has more at stake in digital technologies than any other country. We have more deficits to bridge, and therefore it is expected that we will see an increasing usage. In the last 2 years, we have also seen 2 or 3 decisive shifts. We have seen that the backbone of infrastructure has shifted from physical to digital. We have seen that in terms of goods being transacted, data is the new oil. And in terms of services, we are also beginning to see that the big flow of services is all turning digital. So how Kerala positions itself? Kerala has a unique opportunity to position itself, whether it is in terms of training more people on blockchain technologies, or developing robotics capabilities, or in developing mobile apps. The IT industry, as many of you may know, the IT industry, which started sometime towards the late 1990s, is today worth $150 billion. But the internet economy and the mobile economy in the last 3 years, it's only in the last 3 years that internet penetration has gone up, has also reached $110 billion in just a short span of 3 years. So certainly, India is gearing up to be a $1 trillion digital economy in the very near future. And I think intelligent positioning of Kerala in this whole space is going to be key. So I'm just going to end with what I think are some of the principles that we would need to keep in mind. I think the first is, as we said, to go back and cement that social compact that we saw during the floods. Second, do whatever we can across the ecosystem to unleash entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovation. Third, to carefully look at areas of investment where the social rate of return is the highest. And lastly, I think, engage much more intensively with the larger community to bring a new thought leadership into Kerala. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before I hand over to Mr. Arun Pillai, from KPMG, to quickly summarize, I know it's a difficult task with 70 speakers and 7-8 tracks parallelly going. I feel that we should now look at what Aruna ma'am mentioned about rebuilding to recreating a better Kerala with a changed mindset as well as new business models. Don't copy the business model. The message is well taken. We will definitely work on that along with KPMG in terms of sending in the recommendations to Government of Kerala. Over to Mr. Arun Pillai now.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Chief Guest, Madam Aruna, friends from TiE. KPMG is honored to be a part of this discussion and TiE conference. Our chairman, Arun Kumar, is also very keen and committed to this Recreating Kerala initiative, and we've always been a part of this initiative right from the beginning after the floods. My job here is to encapsulate what's been discussed over the last 2 days, fun and intense discussions on many topics. All discussions are not around rebuilding, but I think there was aspects of discussions which focused on the holistic development of the state, both inclusive of how people need to change and how the state needs to be recreated. I'm not going session by session into each aspect as to what we've discussed, but I'll try and summarize and just give the gist of what was discussed in each of the sessions that we had over the last 2 days. Being in the consulting field, I have to put a disclaimer in case I have missed out any points, and if any of the aspects were not brought in, apologize. It will be incorporated into our final submission that we give to TiE as part of the session. I think the two main objectives which I saw over the last 2 days, one was the spirit of entrepreneurship, which was well demonstrated by all the emerging entrepreneurs and the well-established entrepreneurs who were here, madam, for the last few days. And really wonderful ideas and holistic development concepts were brought out. And I think congratulations to TiE actually for having brought out the range of speakers that they had. And it was really amazing to see sessions being done with a senior composer, then ranging from key stalwarts of healthcare, key people of the education industry, key people from the academic profession as well who contributed in many sessions. I'll briefly talk about it as well. Experts like Dr. Miki Desai, who specifically mentioned on sustainability and development from our perspective. And hospitality industry, the tourism industry, which was a session which I thought was very brilliantly done as well, and there were a lot of key points for us to take away from that. The range of sectors that we've covered over the last few days are some of the key aspects, which includes, madam, some of the things that you mentioned about holistic development and how alternative medicine was being brought into some of the healthcare discussions. I think was very, very well thought through by TiE in bringing out these sessions. And even the story of Chekoti, I think, was very nice and brilliantly brought out into these sessions as well. Just to some key points from some of the sessions, the first one on sustainability and development, a pretty scary scenario which Dr. Ravindran put up there, where if there's a 2-degree rise and what is going to be the status of Kerala and the Cochin as a city, he showed some maps which was pretty scary from our perspective for people who live in Cochin and to see that what could be the consequences of some of these developments or some of these changes which if we don't prevent and how it could affect our lives ongoing. Food security was touched upon, water security was touched upon. And a good example of that, he was focused on the usage of recycled water, sewage water being recycled. And I think he gave an example of beer, which he consumed in Japan, which is manufactured from recycled sewage water. Was an interesting observation which I made as well. Power security is an important aspect. Waste was one key aspect which was brought out by the panel in that discussion. And some of the suggestions that came out was waste buyback by the industry who are polluting through the waste disposal systems that they have. So I think some good concepts and some key aspects with regards to food, water, power, and waste were some of the key areas which came out of discussions. And I think there are some good takeaways that we will summarize as part of our summary that we give to TiE. The second round of the discussions was on Gunj. Anshul did a fabulous job of showing how they brought dignity into receiving charity. I think that was an important aspect which he showcased and showed the extent of work that Gunj as an organization has done over the last many years in India, and how simple things like roads and canals being built up, let's say in Bundelkhand or in Tamil Nadu, and how the charity that they've received is being given in kind to the people who are helping them rebuild those areas. I think it was a good model which we could use in Kerala as part of our recreate exercise as well. And I think it's a good session where we could take some good insights from that as well. Healthcare session was an interesting one. We had key stalwarts both from the healthcare industry, healthcare management, and the alternative medicine sector. Key points that came out was the affordability and the new technologies that need to be incorporated to make healthcare more affordable. Some good ideas on some of the gaps that exist currently in the healthcare space and how technology could help reach out to the wider parts of Kerala through technology was an important aspect. And I think one of the points which both the medical industry together, both the alternative medicine, agreed that how alternative medicines and the technologies that we had from Ayurvedas, how that could jointly help the state and the people of the state in rebuilding themselves both mentally and from the perspective of how they've lost whatever financial losses that they've had as well, and the health and their health aspects also could be covered from both sides, from the allopathy side and from the alternative medicine side. Though there was a note of caution, is the healthcare industry panel focused on improving civic sense as a state and as people living in our country. There was a point made that an improvement of civic sense is something which we should focus on and incorporate that from early stages of childhood as children grow up. One of the other sessions which I thought was first of its kind was the agribusiness, and I don't think I've seen a lot of focus given on agriculture business as such, and this time it was, kudos to TiE for having brought that particular sector into the discussion. And really some good insights from it. Mr. Kumar was mentioning earlier today the branding of seeds, and how Chiquita bananas, for example, is branded, which irrespective of which part of the world you go, you find the banana consistent. And some of the thought processes that came out from that discussion was the seed branding and how you could make it uniform, irrespective of which part of the state it comes. The other aspect which came out was there are countries which are much smaller than us and who have much higher exports of exotic food products which go out. So we have a climate which apparently helps us grow some of these crops. And there was a discussion by the industry to say that we need to bring back some of these exotic products which will help them, which will help our exports and help the farmers to decide as to what they need to grow as well. There were some challenges mentioned in there about the current existing rules and regulations which prevent farmers from doing some of these things, and I think there was a discussion to see how they can represent the government and try and see if some of these modifications can be done in that. There was a session by IM Professor Dr. Damodaran on the use of blockchain and how he believes that technology would transform the governance in our state and across the country as well. And some of the key areas, I think his dream he's mentioned was blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence, all these things being brought together to be able to help improve governance and help people understand that there's technology which they can use to make their lives a lot more better and easier. And especially in a situation such as the floods, technology played a very important part in helping us recover and come back to, and save a lot of people as part of the search and rescue operations as well. There was another interesting, which is the ideation contest, which was done. The undergrad team from Central Research, congratulations. I think they beat all the MBA schools in coming up with some new ideas for development of rebuild of Kerala. The Pattayapura idea was innovative. I thought the kids brought out a good concept which, if implemented, probably would help some of the water level, higher areas which there is higher water levels than the other parts of Kerala. The tourism or the experiential hospitality industry was good session. The story of Aisha Manzil and the story of King Philip coming down and staying there versus the Pokali rice, which was very native, and the technology being used, or the natural technology being used to develop that particular crop, and how that is helping the farmers in that area. I think were good innovative ideas. There were a couple of discussions on the wake-up call for the tourism industry, saying that you need to be creative, you need to be more innovative in trying to see how else you could capitalize on the existing natural resources of the state to be able to bring in more tourists from different parts of the world. In summary, there's a few key takeaways. Kerala needs to reinvent, Kerala needs to recreate. We can have many number of conferences and ideation sessions like this, but as long as boils down to we have to change, and as long as we don't change in the way we live and the way we treat nature, we will end up in the same problem that we have experienced this year. One of my friends today, who's part of the search and rescue operations with the Indian Navy, said it's a scary sight to see in the helicopters when they go for search and rescue operations. It's a scary sight to see the waste which is floating around, and there are areas which is just completely flooded with just waste. plastic waste and other waste products just floating around. So we have to change. We really have to rethink and recreate Kerala in a better way. And I hope this is a wake-up call for all of us. There were sessions where people have said that we are going back into our old ways. I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope as part of this TiECON, the new entrepreneurs have got some new ideas to see what they can create and help the state rebuild, or increase our entrepreneurship spirit from the state and create some good businesses which will generate income and economy, improve our economy. And also, I believe the existing entrepreneurs would have taken good lessons from how to incorporate sustainability into their growth and see how well we can establish better businesses and sustainable businesses as part of the state. That is all from me for the summation as part of this particular TiECON conference. We will be summarizing some of these discussions and submitting and working with TiE to submit this as part of our engagement with them. And as I said in the beginning, if I have missed out any of the points, my apologies, and we will incorporate that in the next session. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.
Thanks, Arun. There's been a brilliant summary. I mean, it's very difficult. We from TiE would like to sort of, as VK Matthews told in his panel, we had earlier the charter member retreat, then we had the round table, which you also participated. Elias was there. And this conference, which has given us a lot of food for thought. And we will definitely look forward to, do it as fast as possible. Yeah, so I mean, in the sense, we cannot delay it further, and, we'll do it as soon as possible. We come to the last, I think we have been all very patient. We started at 9:30. I think the clock is going to be at 6:30. We are feeling a little bit exhausted. But finally, I think the curtains are coming down. To Ajit Moopan, our Senior Vice President, saying word of thanks, but don't thank the bride's father.
Chief guest, Aruna ma'am, good evening, friends and gentlemen. When MSA passed on the responsibility of TiECON director to me from Rajesh Nair, who's been holding the baton for last 6 years, he handed over the notional key to me and said, Ajit, just please open the conference and close the conference. And also he said, do it in the lowest time possible, So he has a manner in which, oversimplifying big challenges. So here I am. So I was here before you, welcoming you all in the inaugural session yesterday, and in the we were here. We had many deliberations over the last 20 hours, and I would like to hear from you. How was it? Was it worthwhile? Yeah. Okay. So it was a difficult decision for us to deviate from our normal theme of pure focus on entrepreneurship to go into this contextually important theme of Rebuild Kerala. But I'm glad, from the kind of contribution that came in. But today, Aruna ma'am, you surprised us. We thought we had seen it all, and then you brought in the fresh perspective of, throwing the new gauntlet of what to recreate, what to rebuild. That was a paradigm shift, and thank you for that. That will set our minds thinking in new directions, and it's gratifying that TiE is playing a significant role in thought leadership. I would also just like to tell you that we perhaps you are aware we had a roundtable, Rebuild Kerala roundtable we held with all the business association in association with KPMG, with the government officials, and Mr. VK Matthew also participated in that. We had it in Trivandrum. So this is the kind of contribution we make, and we sincerely wish it translates into concrete actions on the ground. Having said that, now I go about doing my duty. First of all, ma'am, thank you very much for coming down here and participating in this valedictory function. It means a great deal to us. I ask every one of you to join in a round of applause to express our gratitude to her. Then, of course, the cornerstones of any event are the speakers. We had a long list of them, 70 odd, let me see if the count is right. and moderators of the panel discussions, including our charter members. So next, I wish to thank all of the speakers who participated in the discussion. An event like this cannot happen without the support of sponsors. We have a long list of them, but I would just read out names of a few. Our presenting sponsor, South Indian Bank, our strategic partner, Government of Kerala, through the various arms, KSUM, KSIDC, Info Park, and Techno Park, Lexus, our knowledge partner, KPMG, Dhanam, DC Books, Geojit, IBS, Eastern, Termo Penpal, and many more. I'm not able to read out the names for the paucity of time. Thank you very much, all of you. Please give a round of applause to all of them. Then I wish to thank our, nothing, even like this cannot happen without great leadership. And even though MSA forbid me to thank I'm not presenting you a bouquet this time. I'm just thanking my colleague, for providing the great leadership, and Hari is here. He's at the lead team, vice president. And of course, Rajesh Nair was the architect and force behind this for last many years. All of you, thank you for the, role played to make this event a success. Next in line is our charter members and families who are, wholeheartedly participated in this event. I would like to thank a few of them by name who played significant role. All of you, in fact, but some of you who played an extra role, perhaps Santit, Mukund, Ravi, who helped us get a lot of speakers. Thank you all. Next, the event partners, Watermark, Channel IM, Drumbeats, Corbell, who made the event app, Intersmart, our digital technology, digital marketing platform, partner, sorry. I express sincere thanks to all of you for coordinating and making this event a great success. Please give a round of applause, please. And then in the background, we had strong work behind from our secretariat, from our dear Casey, Nirmal, Divya, and the whole team. Thank you all. Without your effort, this would not be a success. I also wish to thank the management of the venue, the Hotel Meridian, the staff who put in good work to make this happen. And also our ebullient MC, Adra, who's been, thank you. And most of all, I wish to thank all the delegates who have participated. It's you who who make this event the most successful and gratifying. Thank you. I hope I have not missed out anyone. All right. So thank you, Sudhaji. I also thank the members of the press who has not only been here, but supported in all our press meetings and giving us great coverage, without which this kind of event cannot be promulgated and publicized. So thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you and have a great evening.
I'd like to take a moment to request Mr. M.S.A. Kumar to present mementos to our chief guest first, Ms. Aruna Sundararajan, and to Arun Pillai as well. Chekutti has been in high demand, they got over. So we hope to give Aruna ma'am a chekutti off stage. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Arun. Everyone at TiECON Kerala hopes that by the time we meet next year for the next TiECON, we would have made significant progress in rebuilding our homeland. We are in this together. Let's get this going. Thank you all. See you next year.